All of us know the story of Noah's Ark. After Adam's fall, evil flourished. God decided to make a new beginning. To Noah, he revealed the coming of a great flood and commanded him to build an ark to save his family and the animals. And so in faith, Noah built his ark. In time, the animals came, and so did the rain. For 40 days and 40 nights it rained. The entire earth was flooded. But the ark survived, and when in time a dove returned with an olive branch, Noah knew that the water was subsiding. His family and the animals had been saved. To all who survived, God promised that he would never send a second flood. All of us know this story, but few know the story of a second ark. In 1946, on the Bikini Atoll in the Pacific Ocean, more than 4,000 animals were loaded onto a ship. They were shaved, tagged, and tethered on deck. Then, in the interest of radiation research, they were left to bear the full fury of an atomic explosion. The ship was called the Atomic Ark. Unlike Noah's precious cargo, the animals on board the Atomic Ark were not there to be saved. Animals are used in science for many reasons, not just atomic tests. Perhaps as many as 3 animals are killed in laboratories every second, just in America. Perhaps twice that number worldwide. The catalog of their use is not pretty. No sensitive person will find it easy to look at their pain. And yet, when it comes to the use of animals in laboratories, we must not turn aside, we must look inside. These cats, with their eyes sewn shut, are being used in behavioral studies. Suffering an induced seizure, this monkey is the subject in test for anti-epileptic drugs. These piglets have had their spinal cords intentionally damaged in order to investigate traumatic spinal injuries. This monkey has had his head injured in a study of brain trauma. Vision research is the reason for this puppy's missing eye. What we have just glimpsed is not exceptional. Every day, thousands of animals are burned, drowned, suffocated, starved, dehydrated, used in educational settings, in instructional labs in our schools, and in practice surgery. Sometimes animals are used in pursuit of medical knowledge. More often they are used in non-medical context. People throughout the world are beginning to question the scientific and ethical validity of using animals in science, of keeping intelligent social creatures in restraining chairs for months at a time. Voices from within the major religions of the world are beginning to be heard. The dissenting voice of Rabbi Sidney Jacobs is no longer his alone.
The theme of concern over non-human animals is one which is consistent throughout Judaism, going back all the way to the first chapter of the book of Genesis, all the way through the books of Jonah and the book of Job, into post-biblical rabbinic literature, which establishes the basic Jewish principle which we adhere to this day, called Sa'ar Ba'alei Chayim, the suffering of living things, the pain of living things.
One way animals suffer is in the Drey's test. A liquefied substance, such as oven cleaner or paint stripper, is placed in the eye of albino rabbits. The degree of damage is measured at various intervals. Blindness may result. Anesthetics are not used. Rabbits sometimes break their back in their futile attempts to escape the searing pain. The Drey's and other painful tests routinely are done in the course of developing most household products and cosmetics. Yet there already are safe items for the home and attractive cosmetics that have not been tested on animals.
I want you to understand that every time you pick up an innocent-looking tube of toothpaste, or the dandruff shampoo in your shower, the liquid bleach in your laundry, the powder you scrub your stove with, oven cleaner, hairspray, lipstick, floor polish, room deodorizers, dishwashing detergents, all these are a result of testing on the eyes of rabbits. Speaking of the pain and suffering of living things, the Dre's test is among the most horrendous product testing devices ever brought upon the market.
Many millions of animals are used in psychological research. This cat, for example, is being used in an experiment that permits her to drink milk only if she will accept a painful shock at the same time.
I feel that Judaism must have a strong opposition to animal experimentation, which involves shocking animals or doing any psychological change of the complexion of animals. So from the point of view of Jewish law, I would have to say that Judaism has a categorical imperative not to condone such experiments. Judaism states very clearly that animals are entitled to a basic dignity.
Critics of the use of animals in science call for the development of alternatives, not for the abandonment of the scientific enterprise. They point to examples such as Resuscidog, a lifelike model that enables students to learn how to revive a dog who has had a heart attack. Only a few years ago, dogs were given a heart attack in order that students might learn how to resuscitate them. Thanks to the development of Resuscidog, this normally fatal procedure is today altogether unnecessary. Cell and tissue culture techniques also hold great promise. One test, the Ames test, already has proven to be a quicker, cheaper means of screening for possible carcinogens than animal tests. And pioneering work in this area promises to replace the Dre's test. Even the computer offers great hope. One program, called Operation Frog, enables students to dissect a frog on a screen, not a once-living organism. Technology is making the use of animals obsolete in educational context, according to Rabbi Jacobs. He calls upon students and their parents to help reform instruction in the life sciences.
I think that more and more young people are emboldened to address themselves to their instructors and their professors and say, I will not dissect a living creature just for the purpose of an abstract experiment. And I think that if parents, if fathers and mothers will encourage our young people whose sensitivity has been increased, we will see marked progress in this area.
There are other questions in addition to students' rights that demand our attention. The larger issue of our proper relationship to God's creation is receiving new, urgent re-examination in the religious community.
The saints offer us some depth of insight into the basic orientations of our Western religious traditions. And so it's quite appropriate that we look at people like Martin of Porres in the Latin American world. Martin of Porres had this intimate acquaintance with the animal world, with the domestic animals, but even with mice. Francis of Assisi had a fraternal model of relationship with the natural world. He had this sense of being one family with them, with the fish, with the birds. He talked to them and listened to them. They preached to him, he preached to them. The universe is a celebratory event. Life is celebration. What do the birds do? They celebrate, they fly, they sing, they're beautifully colored. What do the fish do? They celebrate. What does any form of life do? Celebrate. But it's always the total life community that's celebrating. It's always the total community that's involved. Trapping, particularly for furs and for certain ornamentation purposes on the part of humans at the present time, represent a certain degradation of the natural world that is particularly to be regretted or to be done away with. To use the natural world for such needless and vain purposes, and to destroy so much beauty, to utilize for ephemeral human purposes. So it betrays almost a pathology of mind. And in our times, it's particularly crucial because whatever may have been the condition in former times and whatever needs humans may have had for the things that animals provided, that's not true of ourselves, so that we don't have the excuse or the reason that earlier peoples may have had.
As a fundamentalist, I certainly believe that God created the world and all the things that are therein. The psalmist said in the 8th Psalm, O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. And he goes on to explicitly state that God created the heavens and the earth and the sea and the cattle and the beast of the field and all that is in therein. And of course, as a creationist, I have a very deep regard for the wonderful things that God has made. As a young man growing up in South Alabama, before my conversion, I learned to be an avid hunter. After I met Jesus Christ and my heart was changed, I had in my possession hunting and fishing license for 4 different states. I'll never forget my first hunting experience. I went out to hunt that afternoon, and I had particularly decided to hunt squirrels. I sat down under a big hickory tree, and in a very short time the little squirrels were out playing, and I'd suddenly realized that I'd lost my desire to ever shoot one again. I just placed my gun down and began to admire these wonderful creatures of God. And it wasn't very long until I was out of the hunting business as far as that's concerned. My heart was filled with love. I didn't want to see anything suffer, and today I can't bear to see things suffer.
Few of us hunt for food, but most of us do eat animals, and that too may be a cause for honest religious concern. For most of us, our image of a farm is the image of our childhood. We all remember the pictures in the books. So do today's children. Listen to their voices as they imagine what a farm is like.
There would be chickens running round in the farmyard, pecking at the ground, searching for food. Sometimes they flap their wings and roll in the dust. The hen would be looking after the chicks if she had any.
Young pigs would be running about in the fields or being fed by their mother.
In the past, most farms were as these children imagine them. Cows grazed in the pasture, birds scurried about the farmyard, hogs cooled themselves in the mud. Together with their human caretakers, they formed a balanced, harmonious system of life. Some farms, though very few, remain this way. Most farms today are rather different. Today's poultry industry has moved indoors into mechanized plants called factory farms. In this battery hen operation, food is delivered mechanically. Eggs are collected and sorted automatically. As many as 7 or 8 hens may stand in a wire mesh cage of 18 by 24 inches for as long as a year. There is no daylight, there is no nesting, no fresh air. There is no room even to stretch their wings. The eggs in our supermarkets come from farms like this one.